Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Joining us on the phones this morning, a man who has been sitting in some very boring meetings lately, U.S. Senator John Cornyn joining us here on the program. Senator, I got to hand it to you. If you haven't been falling asleep at your desk, you're doing better than I am while watching these impeachment hearings.
Well, there's a lot of repetition, as you can tell, Chad, and I think, in a way, the impeachment managers, Mr. Schiff and others, they seem to want to filibuster their own case, and it's not designed to persuade anybody in the chamber. I think this is their moment to shine on national TV, and they want to capture every minute of it, so this really doesn't seem to be about the president even. This is Chuck Schumer trying to put vulnerable senators who are running for re-election in tough spots because he knows there are not 67 votes to convict and remove the president.
Right. Senator, have you heard anything new at all?
Not really. Not really. It seems to be just, like I said, very repetitious. For a while I spent my living working as a district judge in San Antonio and around South Texas, and in no court of law in the nation would this kind of repetitive presentation be allowed to go on. It's really kind of a waste of time. They should have their say, and then let's the president's lawyers have their say, and then let's argue the application of the law to the facts. And this is just droning on and on and on.
Senator, I had a real problem with something that Adam Schiff said. A lot of things that Adam Schiff has said, but one of the things that he said on the first day, not the days where you were, everyone was debating the rules, but on the first day of actual testimony, when he said that this cannot be decided at the ballot box because we cannot guarantee the integrity of the next election. Senator, that's pretty incendiary talk. That if Trump is reelected, we can't trust the election results.
Well, it's an outrageous statement, and this is part of the propaganda that they've been disseminating ever since 2016. They can't believe that President Trump won, and they have not accepted that from day one. And this impeachment is just the latest effort following the 2-year Mueller investigation, where the special counsel found no collusion, no obstruction. This is just the latest effort, and I think they realize that given the radical shift in the Democratic Party towards socialism, that it's unlikely they'll be able to beat the president at the ballot box. But Chad, the thing is, to me, just from a 30,000-foot perspective, the thing that gives our government legitimacy is the consent of the governed. That's the basic principle on which our democracy is built. Part of that legitimacy comes from the voters choosing their elected officials. But Adam Schiff doesn't want that to happen. He wants Congress, 535 members of Congress, to choose the next president. And that causes me a lot of concern.
Let's look ahead a little bit. On Saturday, I believe, is when the White House begins to present their arguments on this. Then after that, there's going to be another debate over witnesses. I know there's still everybody in the press is writing about will there not be witnesses. What do you think will eventually play out?
Well, I have a little bit of a problem with the way that's been framed because they had witnesses. They had 17 witnesses in the House, and that's what we've been seeing excerpts of their testimony throughout the impeachment manager's presentation. And the argument is now they want more witnesses because they rushed to judgment before Christmas in the House, so they now want to make up for that in the Senate by taking our time to present those additional witnesses. At the same time, they say the evidence is overwhelming and not disputed. So again, if they think the evidence is overwhelming and undisputed, then they really don't need additional witnesses. And I'm afraid what they really want to do is they want to tie the Senate up for weeks, if not months, while various claims of executive privilege and the like are litigated in the courts. And we can't do anything else. I think this is a part of a conscious scheme to prevent us from confirming new judges and getting anything else done in the Senate. I don't think we should stand for that.
There's no way Democrats are going to be able to call witnesses, though, unless Republicans join with them, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. It takes anything 51 senators vote on, then that will happen. But I think people are just now beginning to understand what the practical implications of that would be if close confidants of the president, for whom the White House can claim a executive privilege or some other legal privilege, we'd have to basically suspend the impeachment trial while those are litigated through the courts, through the trial court, Court of Appeals, and Supreme Court. That will take months, if not longer, and I don't think we should stand for that. Adam Schiff thinks he has a overwhelming case where the facts are not disputed. I think we ought to try the case that he presents to us, not do it for him.
Visiting with Senator John Cornyn here on the Chad HD Show. How do you want to hear from Hunter Biden? It sounds like your colleague and the other senator from this state, Senator Cruz, kind of wants to hear from Hunter Biden a little bit, but I don't know if there's the votes to call him. What do you feel?
Well, I think, it's amazing to me that by arguing that the president had only a single motive, and that is to help himself in the next election by digging up opposition research on Joe Biden, they basically are making Joe and Hunter Biden's conduct relevant to this, and I'm tempted to say we ought to call them, and particularly if other witnesses will be called. I do expect that we will hear a lot more about why the president's call for investigation into corruption in Ukraine was justified, just like it was under the Obama and Biden administration. That, to me, is part of the hypocrisy. They said that it was justified under Obama and Biden, but it's not under President Trump. And again, this is just part of the double standard that we've seen applied in so many instances for the last 3 years. It just really is a bridge too far.
Senator, I have a couple of minutes left. Let me ask you this. Is there a chance that the White House or Republicans will be able to call witnesses and witnesses from the other side may not be called?
I think so. That's possible. I think it's probably more likely, Chad, that they would be coupled. In other words, Senator Cruz has talked about reciprocity,
right?
And that's that if they call one, then we'd call one. The problem is, I don't know anybody who really feels like there's a need to delay or to string this out any longer than necessary to present the facts and argue the law. We've got other things we need to be doing, reducing prescription drug costs. We need a highway infrastructure bill, and there's a lot of other things that we need to be doing that we can't do while this impeachment goes on. So this is not cost-free. I'd be for letting each side have their say, and then let's see if there's 67 votes to convict and remove the president. They're not. Now, I'm confident.
Now, real quickly here, I'll ask you this. How annoyed do you think Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Amy Klobuchar are right now that Joe Biden gets Iowa all to himself? And has anyone fallen asleep at their desk, and do you want to name names?
My lips are sealed about. I don't blame them for falling asleep because it is just like it's like going into a trance because they keep saying the same thing over and over again. But I have noticed, looking over at Bernie, that he appears to be a little flushed and a little red in the face. I bet he and Elizabeth Warren are just chafing at being stuck there while the impeachment managers extol the merits of Joe Biden's candidacy for president.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're not happy.
I'm with you on that. Senator John Cornyn, appreciate your time today, and let's visit again soon.
Thanks, Chad.
That's U.S. Senator John Cornyn here on the Chad HD Show. News Talk, KFYO. We'll take our break. We'll be right back.